Welcome to Legacy Cast, your source for hearing from top influencers, industry experts, and successful business owners who are telling their unique story about life, values, goals, business strategies, and the various causes they are so passionate about. Future generations will come to be impacted by what is happening today, whether positive or negative, and our mission is to focus on what is going to affect change for the better. Hosted each weekday by James Snow, a former U.S. Army combat medic, now founder and principal advisor of James Advisors Group, a full-service financial planning firm in North Texas. This is Legacy Cast. Welcome to the program, Legacy Cast listeners. This is your host, James Snow. Welcome you to the program, and we have a guest with us today, Sean Moran, who I've just been speaking to a little bit before going live here, and there's a few things that I thought were pretty interesting that we'll want to touch on during the program. Sean, being an author and also does podcasting as well, and so that's something that definitely is very useful for the people that are out there in the world. As of course you're listening to a podcast here, and he also has some financial insights that I think is going to be very relevant for us because like the program here is about, as it would imply, we talk about legacies that it's a way that you can tell your story your way, so that the next generations behind us are going to understand what mattered to you, what things you were involved in, the people that you influenced, and what you did to make a difference. And that can be both a financial one, that can be educational, or something you're doing in society, maybe volunteering for different nonprofits, what have you. And so without further ado, I'd like to welcome Sean into our program. Welcome to the program.
Well, thanks so much. I greatly appreciate you having me.
So, Sean, if you can tell me a little bit, tell our listeners a little bit about your business background, so they can kind of have an idea of what we're bringing you in.
Sure. Yeah. So I have about 15 years of corporate international tax experience. Everything from the Big Four to Fortune 500 companies. And about 4.5 years ago, I went into the followed the entrepreneurship area and delved into buying a wireless-owned Verizon Store franchise. So everything from taxes and finance to to entrepreneurship. That's kind of my background.
So, and that's a really a powerful angle that you're coming at. It's obviously one that's different than what I do, because I always stay away from the tax advice and legal advice. But that actually is a pretty useful one, because that starts flowing into entities, and the reason for doing entity structures in certain ways is when you start thinking about the taxabilities and how someone is going to create their corporate structure. Would that be correct?
Absolutely, and I think a big part of what the corporations really look to do is tax minimization. And that was a big part of what a lot of the planning that we did. Most individuals, you go, you work, you do your thing, and at the end of the year, the end of the year finishes, and somewhere between February and April, you go to an accountant or whoever, and you just put information in and see what you get back, and that's very reactive. But corporations and businesses essentially tax plan and say, well, what's the best entity type that we can create, as well as what are places that we can do business, and what are structures, as you were saying, to, basically, minimize the amount of tax that we owe. And, that can be a significant number, and it can add a lot of money to the bottom line if you do it correctly, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And, a lot of our listeners here are going to be, either business owners, entrepreneurial individuals. And so that becomes very relevant for the people listening to the program is, for those that have not already set up their particular entity structure. Different things that you work with are going to be very instrumental in making that final decision, deciding, do they want to go LLC or S corp or pass through or what have you. Some of the technical terms there, but different decisions that they would want to make that it's going to impact really the long term effect of their business and what their business is going to look like.
Absolutely.
So when you, Sean, are thinking about legacy as a whole, just kind of the overall over all-encompassing subject. What's the first thing that comes to your mind, though, when you start thinking about that?
Sure. To me, legacy means really, what are you leaving for the next generation or for other people, right? So, we all have a finite amount of time on, planet Earth here. And, most of us probably go through life and then come out, at the end and look back, that proverbial saying of, nobody on their deathbed looks back and says, I would have spent more time in the office kind of thing. But,
right.
What are we doing to make an impact on somebody else's life that can, even if it's very insignificant in your mind, what can I do on a day-to-day basis to make other people's lives happier or better, push somebody in the right direction? But also, what else could I do, within our children, within, charity work or so on to,
Sure.
leave a mark so that in some way, shape, or form, the world's a better place than when you entered it.
Yeah, and that's a fairly common answer that I hear from people, as far as how they're kind of looking at that, because it doesn't just mean a financial one. It's really, how are you making that mark? What are you doing that's touching people, that's leaving more of an impression in that manner, as opposed to just the dollars and cents at the end of the day, because money is fleeting, yet lessons are going to be more enduring. So it's what lessons are we passing on, and what experiences are we having with people, that really can be even more of a legacy in many cases. How do your views on legacy, though, affect what you're doing from a business standpoint?
I would say I kind of looked at my store as potentially being something that I could leave to my children, right? So that might be something. Again, I mean, it may morph into something else, but to me, more than necessarily just hey, here's a business and you can pass that on to the next generation. It's the values that you teach your children within that, as well as the values that I can pass on to my employees. So my children are young. The oldest one's 6. But 4.5 years ago, when we opened the store, he went with me in the car to be there the first day. And, he's since then, he goes every once in a while with me, have him sweep the floor or, do something, play with the inventory guns and, just make my children feel like work is valuable, and kind of teaching that to them. And also sharing, with my employees, not just here's your job, you're a salesperson, but let me show you the back end of the business so that if one day you become a business owner, you'll have a little bit more than somebody else that worked at another company where that wasn't shared with them.
Yeah, and those are important aspects to involve in it. And because ultimately when we start businesses, especially those that have children, that oftentimes is what the business owner is thinking, that maybe someday my kids will take over and they'll want to take over the reins when I decide to step away. Is that something you've actively considered also on the flip side of that, maybe your children decide not to do that, what you're going to do as an exit strategy to take that place?
Yeah, no, and I think, there's plenty of time, like I say, my children being younger, there's plenty of time to make that decision. But, I would want them to do what they feel that's going to make the biggest impact in their lives and how they can leave a legacy as well. And I think that's something that I'm teaching them. So if it turns out that, hey, this isn't something that you're interested in doing, that's fine. I think that's, that could work very well for them. And, my wife's a pediatrician. So, hey, if they want to go down that route or finance, business, whatever, that's great.
Yeah.
But, show them different things so that it gives them more of a spectrum to which to decide I like this, don't like this, or whatever. Yeah.
So, kind of given those sort of ideas, do you think that putting planning stages in place is something that might be vital for a business owner, perhaps, taking into those contingencies and so forth, within their plan? Do you think that would be wise advice for somebody?
Yeah, I mean, clearly depending on where you are in your life, one of the things you should have before going into any business is make sure that you have a solid business plan and then that you're able to pivot. I was actually on LinkedIn this morning and there was a post on there from someone who owns a CPA firm. And he said that in the beginning he had value-based pricing and, not to get into too much detail on that, but that didn't work. and then, kind of explained his story of how he was able to pivot, change, and essentially, being able to do that, look at the market and the world changing so much with technology, knowing where you are and what your plan is now, but to be able to kind of, either be the disruptor or the planner for what comes next and understanding what that might be. Like you said, whether it's exit strategy, whether it's, what products or services are changing so that I can stay up with that, not get left behind.
Yeah, that's a good point. So from the CEO and business owner standpoint, are there maybe a couple things that are sort of those stay awake at night moments for you? Still, in your journey as a business owner?
Well, I can say I'm fortunate that I usually, I'm the type that I can put it all aside, go to sleep, because the problem will still be there in the morning. So I don't stay up too much at night for things, but I can tell you that there have been times, and I always say you're not an entrepreneur, and if you've never stopped and said, how am I going to make payroll? How am I going to pay rent next month? How am I going to do this or that or the other? I think everybody has that struggle. From an employee perspective, and this is not just me saying that, I've talked to people in all different, other entrepreneurs, collaborations. I love doing that. Every entrepreneur I talk to will tell you that, or that you talk to probably will tell you, the employees think you're millionaires, and they don't understand that sometimes as a business owner, you might actually be making less than they are. But, if you have a vision and you believe in something, then, even if it's not going exactly how you want in the beginning, you're going to keep working at it, and you're going to, pound away at it, and you're eventually going to be successful. And the ones that aren't are the ones that give up too soon. And so,
sure.
Clearly, if you have something that just doesn't work, then, sometimes you have to cut your losses. But if there's something you believe in and it can work, don't bang your head into the wall, but keep looking at ways to innovate, to grow, and to, learn from others, from other people's mistakes, or learn from their insights to make it better.
So let's kind of dig into what you're mentioning there a little bit further, because you were talking about, people that give up. And what would you say maybe are some of the reasons that are most common that the business owners, new entrepreneurs are giving up, or that they're failing in their venture? Are there a few things that you would warn people about?
Yeah, I think, a lot of times people, go into a business without fully vetting out what's involved. And then all things that, for example, in our my wireless phone store is, that franchise model, they said, hey, you have to have X amount to start the business. And it's not necessarily just, here's what you need to buy the business, but how much money do you have to, if the first couple of months or the first year is tough, how would you be able to draw upon additional funds to keep going? So I think some of what people struggle with might be, they don't have enough funds. That could be an issue. Another one can be, not really being passionate enough or believing enough in what they're doing. And I think another part of it is not having the right people to counsel with, not having the right coaches, or not having the right people around you to throw ideas out and say, hey, this isn't working. What's worked for you? Or, what would you do? Or in this situation, what do you recommend? Because, but I think a lot of people, it's just, it's easy to just say, jump into something and just say, this isn't really working. Let me get out of it. Perfect example is, have you ever heard of the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill?
Sure.
In that book, he said that he gave an example of a father and son mining company, gold mine. They bought into this gold mine, and they were digging and digging, and finally they just said, there's no gold here. And they sold the gold mine for pennies on the dollar, and the next owner came in and just dug a little bit further, and boom, hit the jackpot, so to speak. And it's, if what you're doing is sound, and you really believe in it, make sure you stick with it to the point of success and not give up before, usually people give up right before they would have had amazing success. And so, to the extent that something is a good opportunity, don't give up too fast. Hang in there. That's the advice I would give.
Yeah, good advice there.